Okay, clap.
Do you have any difference between the flavor profile you like for the competition coffee and your preference in outside of competition?
I don't think so. I think I generally pick coffees for competition that I personally like. How I want to talk about something that means something to me. I also want to serve coffee that I personally feel is like the best coffee that I like. So I stand behind it. I love it. I love the flavors. I want other people to taste it because it's like somehow like meant something to me when I tasted it. So I think I generally pick coffees that I personally would love to drink.
What kind of flavor do you like more? Fruity experimental things or just pretty well balanced but unique flavor?
I probably would like lean towards like a more clean, maybe like floral, like low fruits kind of a thing. Yeah. I'm one of those coffee people who like wake up in the morning, the very first thing I do before anything else is like make myself coffee. I not only love coffee, but I definitely need coffee. So for me, first thing in the morning to drink like a big bomb is like not necessarily my vibe for sure. I would rather go with something that's like a little bit more like comforting and like simple first thing in the morning. But I honestly like all types of coffee, so it's kind of, yeah, I'm not really that picky. It's whatever tastes good.
Yeah, whatever
Doesn't
tastes
matter.
good.
Whatever tastes good, yeah.
Yeah. What other flavors do you like? Like what other like drinks or beverages outside of coffee?
I would say, yeah, coffee, wine, sparkling water is that.
Yeah, sparkling water.
I drink far too much sparkling water. Those are like probably my three main beverages. I also really love cocktails too, but I'm not like necessarily the best at making cocktails, probably because I haven't really like invested a lot of time. Plus it's like way easier to just open a bottle of wine and pour it than it is to like get all the things to make a cocktail and shake it. It just seems like getting from like point A to point B is way easier with a bottle of wine than it is to like make a cocktail. Oh, also really good cider. Yeah. Love cider.
Yeah, love cider.
Also easy, just open the bottle.
Yeah, open bottle.
Yeah.
Pour.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when I was preparing the Boston Brewers Cup, yeah, you recommend me lots of different baristas videos to watch.
Yeah.
Is there any like competition in barista or brewers that kind of memorable, or any performance that inspires you to build your presentation?
Someone that like very early on in I think it was probably like my very first year of competing, I always watch the USBC because it's easy to watch, you can see it online very easily. And that year I had just finished competition and then they were having the USBC, and I remember watching Andrea Allen's set in the US, and it was the famous one where she like washed the judges' hands. And I think for me, up until that point, I was used to seeing like very technical and very like, obviously like the coffee industry is like very male focused, and there's like a lot of like really strong coffee men, and like there's a lot of men who are competing, and I think just sometimes like women bring like a different perspective to coffee, so I had very much seen like this similar types of sets that were like more technical or like focused on like origin or that sort of thing, and being able to see her do something that was like so different from that and very much like my kind of style of set, and like something that I really felt like connected to that type of set. And I remember watching it and I was like, wow, like this is so great. Seeing somebody do something that's like a little bit different for me to see, because I was also like very new to coffee when I first started competing. Like my first competition, I had only worked at Monogram for like 6 months, so I had seen competition before, but I wasn't really like as immersed in competition as like a lot of the other competitors were. So seeing her set, it really like inspired me and like confirmed my own style of competition and like building sets, because I was like, someone else is doing something that's like not so technical. Like obviously every barista competitor is technical. They have to be. That's what the competition is. But yeah, I loved that set, and I remember I had finished watching it and I went back to work, and Justin was at work, and I'm like, oh man, like I just saw this set and it was so great, like gushing over it, going on and on about it. And he's like, you should email her and tell her that. And I was like, what? No, I can't email her. And he's like, no, you should email her and tell her that you saw her set. I'm sure that she would love to hear it. So I obviously didn't know who she was, and I just guessed that her email was her first name at Onyx Coffee Lab. And so I sent out this email hoping that it would get to her, and it did. And she wrote me back, and obviously like, oh, thank you so much for watching. Like, and she's so sweet. Like, if there's anything that I could ever do for you, like, let me know. And so from that moment on, we had been like competing. Obviously, like she was competing in the US and I was competing here, and we would always like chat with each other like around competition time. And like every year we're like, good luck, hopefully you win, good luck, hopefully you win, hopefully we'll see you at Worlds. And then it was so cool because this year she had won her competition, and then she messaged me, she's like, okay, like it's your turn to do it this year. I'm like, oh man, that'd be so great. And then we both get to go to Worlds at the same year, which I think is so cool, because she was like someone who I just like loved her set, and I love watching her, like the way that she tells a story too. And so that I would say that obviously like there are just so many amazing competitors, and I love watching competition. But that specific set, I would say like that one really I will always remember, because it was one where I just like really identified with someone that I was seeing that wasn't like super technical or like
I think that set was one of the like that bring the competition different paradigm. Because that set was reminding every competitor that coffee competition, barista competition is not skill competition, it is service competition. And after that, I saw like more similar style of set comes out.
And just even like the types of things that you can fit into like 15 minutes. Like really 15 minutes is not very long. But how to like use your 15 minutes to like so that you can give like the best, like most memorable experience in that 15 minutes, so that when your judges like sit down at like the next table or like think about the last services that they had, like how is your 15-minute service more memorable and more like experiential, while also having the most delicious coffee. Obviously that's always the main goal, but I think like watching that set and realizing that there's actually like a lot of really cool things that you can do in your set outside of just like making coffee.
Is there any other like memorable service experience you had in restaurant, bar, or cafe?
I think it was maybe 2 years ago I went to Portland, and I went to the Proud Mary in Portland, and I remember going there, and it was just like so different, like the cafe, like the Australian style. I've never been to Australia, and so to see like an Australian style cafe, which I had never experienced before, was like really cool. They had like incredible food, like an amazing coffee menu, and just like the whole like service style is very different from like any cafe that we have here. And I remember posting on Instagram, just like as you do, like I was here, and I got a message from someone at Proud Mary saying like, oh hey, thanks for visiting, like if you're going to be back here again before you leave, like come and say hi or whatever. And so I later realized that the person who was messaging me was Nolan, who is the owner of like all like Proud Mary. he worked from out of, I don't know, I think he like goes back and forth between the two cafes, but he was in Portland, and I did not know who he was when I had met him, and he was so great. They brought us out like so much food. We got the most delicious coffee. I got to go like behind the bar and see a lot of like really cool things that they do there. Like he is so smart and like very creative. Like behind their bar in Portland, they have all their EKs. The hoppers are all like enclosed in like a freezer. So all of they fill their hopper and it's all like frozen. So every dose is like he like rigged up different things to like make sure that you just grind like one dose every single time. And I remember when I had gone there, he was explaining that they were going to be doing this thing to me. And then later I saw like Sprudge had done like an article on this. I'm like, oh, it's so cool. Because I was there when he was explaining it to me, and he had like kind of rigged up like a different, his like bar that he had was not like a traditional bar. He had like modified like something else, and then brought me back into the roastery, like where they were doing that, and just like gave me such a good tour. And just seeing like all the really like cool things that he was implementing in his cafe was just like honestly such a good experience. So that was probably like one of my favorite